Hello and welcome back to Project Posterity. You join us for the fourth and final episode of this series entitled Undercleave Life Post-Grandpa. In this episode, we hear how Granny adjusted to life on the farm without Grandpa, how she met Rob, her relationship with her sister Elaine, the perils of driving in your 90s, and finally her move from the farm to Highcleave in Little Torrington. So sit back, relax, and enjoy the episode. So today is November the 27th, 2021, and we're recording part 4 of Project Posterity, and this is entitled Life Post-Grandpa, and this is roughly from 2002 to this year, which is 2021, so it's about a 19-year period. And opposite me, I have Granny. Say hi, Granny.
Hello.
Hello. And also Uncle Keith.
Hello.
There we go. We're just getting comfortable.
Yes.
So should we...
It was a difficult time. Should I start straight in?
Yeah, why not? Yeah.
It's, after about 3 weeks of doing all that one has to do once someone's died, I thought, now I've got to sit down and think deeply about where I want to go from here.
Yeah.
And the result of my thinking was I decided to give myself 5 years on my own down there and see if I could manage it all right, how I felt about it.
On the farm?
On the farm.
Yeah.
Yeah. Sorry. And so it was fairly simple in a way to pick things up because David had been ill for quite a long time. I had taken over quite a lot, but I was pretty well lost on the paperwork, and that was bothering me a bit. Otherwise, there wasn't a lot of physical work to do because he hadn't been farming for quite a while. He got rid of the cattle. So the next thing I decided was that if I was going to be there for 5 years, someone had to look after the land. And the obvious person was our next door neighbour, Michael Watkins. So that was what I did next. I went and had a long talk with him. He said he would like to rent the land, and I felt that I could manage the house and the garden and probably the paperwork myself, give it a try. So that was what I did, and with the help of Elaine and our the money man,
The accountant.
Captain, sorry. We had a number of meetings and so on. We sort of worked things out, and both men helped me enormously. And so that was what I did. I had a number of friends in the village. I published the local newsletter. That kept me quite busy. I was busy most of the time and was happy, reasonably happy, because I was at home there. I knew everything and everybody around me, and that was fine.
And it wasn't... Grandpa's death didn't come as a shock, did it?
Not at all.
He deteriorated.
He deteriorated over the years quite a bit.
Yeah.
He would have good times, bad times, and he had had a bad time for some while, so it was expected. Yeah. He wouldn't see a doctor. That was his nature, and so I was pretty well on my own with Deirdre and Alison, both qualified doctors, to sort of guide me a little bit.
Do you know what he died from?
Well, it was very simple, really. It was pneumonia, which often happens as I suppose as their chest muscles get a bit weaker as they go along. And on his he didn't know he was doing it. He used to get out of bed, and this is very common, and just walk about with nothing on in the middle of the night, particularly where they get a bit disorientated. And this happened on his last night, and I by then had moved my bed. His bed had been moved into the dining room, and I moved into the living room on a camp bed. And being disturbed every night with him getting up and walking about, I was absolutely dead tired. So when he fell out of bed this last night, I thought, I can't get out of bed again. So I left it a bit and I thought, no, come on, you're going to get up. By which time he'd been lying on the floor quite a while. And so I'm sure he probably had pneumonia before then, but that, that was, if you like, finished him off.
Yeah.
I don't know how else to put it, really.
And you were saying, before we started the recording, you were saying who was there, so
yes.
Alison, my mum was there.
Yes, I can't think who was actually staying in the house. Certainly your mum.
I think my mum, yeah.
Yes, that's right.
David was
David would have stayed there. Yeah. And as I said before, Deirdre was away just for the weekend, really, with Mike on Dartmoor. We got in touch with them, but I think in those days I didn't have a mobile phone. I don't know how we got in touch with them, but we did anyway. And they came back afterwards, but, about halfway through the next day, so it wasn't too long, really.
Yeah. Do you remember getting a phone call, Keith, or do you remember when you heard the news?
Yes.
I was in Georgia, working on medicinal plants, and I remember I got an email from you a few months.
Yes, I was emailing then. That's right.
Gosh.
Can you contact me if others probably hasn't got long left? I think you put it like that.
Yes.
So I phoned you, of course, and then it was a problem. I was on a contract and I couldn't just leave. And there weren't that many flights actually available. But I managed to find one.
Yes, you weren't long coming.
No, it wasn't long.
No.
And I'd been working very, very hard, so I'd done most of the work actually by then. So I was able to come away without disappointing anybody.
Yeah. Did you stay then for a little bit of time? I don't remember. Obviously, at this point I was 12, I think.
No, I don't know how long I stayed for or where I stayed.
You stayed until after his funeral.
Okay. I did.
So it would have been fortnight, 3 weeks later.
I don't remember where I slept. Did I sleep on the farm?
Well, you must have done. Yes, you must have done, I think.
Okay.
Yeah.
I remember though, when you told me that he had just died, I went down into Tbilisi, the capital, and there was this, I think it must have been 4th century old church, very small.
Yeah.
And inside there were 3 men with beards, as they are, and they were singing in a very peculiar way that Georgians sing.
No, Georgian chant.
Georgian chant, but in that setting, very powerful music. I never forget. That's what I associate with Father's death at that time. I went to this church, and there it was, the perfect place to go.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was interesting. I didn't know that. Yeah. Yes, so there we are. So I, as I took up the my new position, as it were, settled down really amazingly quickly. And lots of help from friends up in the village, real friends, not just friends because there's a death, but real friends. And family helped a lot. I think Deirdre and Mum to some extent, because you were all quite...
Yeah, when I was young, if I was 12.
Came down as often as they could. I didn't know how I would find it in the farmhouse, isolated down in the valley, but it never worried me. Not till the day I left. Yeah.
What about the shotgun?
I had the shotgun, and I did have a license. But I found actually, in passing, having the shotgun was worse, because seeing the shotgun frightens you, because you're thinking of burglars.
Yeah.
So I got rid of it, and I was much better really after that. It's a sort of psychological thing, I suppose. But see, I didn't feel that I needed the gun, so that was all right. And after 5 years, time absolutely flew. I decided that I was actually quite enjoying it down there on my own, and I seemed to be managing. My neighbours helped a lot, and so on. And time sort of went on. I never got any animals. I didn't feel like I coped with that side of it at all, but Michael next door was managing it well. And I had by then made contact with several people who could come and help me, like to do heavy jobs on the farm that I couldn't manage myself. I always felt I was amazingly lucky. that as far as I know, no one actually took any advantage of the fact that I knew nothing. Or if they did, it was very small.
One thing I was wondering is, with Grandpa passing, did anything all the sort of relationship then went to you? Did anything change with, I don't know, with the neighbours? Or, I mean, you often talked about your closest neighbour, Sonny Jim.
Well, yes.
He got a bit bolder, maybe, I don't know.
Well, only insofar as they still helped me a lot. They were much more polite.
They were more polite.
Without
Grandpa.
Yeah.
Why was that?
Well, because I was female, I suppose, and they were very good. Yes, and they would hesitate a little bit sometimes. Not my female friends. They were just ordinary, But I obviously had to deal with a lot of men on my own, which I wasn't really quite used to, and I was rather dreading having to do this. But in actual fact, they were all so kind and polite that it wasn't a problem at all. So I was probably lucky there. And I had David Murch up in the village, who was always a good guide and friend.
Yeah.
And if I was worried about anything, I would go to him, and he would point the direction he thought I should go.
Was he a mechanic or something?
No, he was. He wasn't a farmer, but he dealt with farm machinery. For instance, he would go around the farms and help them with the threshing at harvest time and that sort of thing. That was his family business, farm machinery. He was, in some ways, a mechanic, I suppose, but with a long history of farming in the family, and he and his wife were wonderful friends, right up till a couple of years ago when they died. So I lent on them a lot. And time went on, and I met Rob, who helped me with the garden. He did a lot of reorganising of the garden. I had started to find time to really organise it, clear it up, and get some sort of structure into it. And I was very interested in doing that. And then he told me that he had taken a horticultural class. I don't know what certificate, I suppose. It wasn't a degree, but when he retired, he got this horticultural, whatever it was. He was very interested in plants. Could he help me as I'd reorganised it? With plants. He knows plants, and he really helped a lot, and he helped me make the garden pretty much as I wanted it, and I spent a lot of time in the garden. Really,
that felt like sort of post Grandpa. That felt like one of your biggest projects. Projects on the farm.
Well, yes, because I wasn't farming.
Yeah.
So I mean, I kept all the sheds. Although you wouldn't believe it, I kept the sheds in some sort of order, and looked after the buildings. Put it that way. Yeah. It was mainly the garden.
And at this stage, you had no animals, right? You just had.
I had no animals.
All the chickens were gone.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yes.
Danny Michael Watkins his animals were on the land.
His animals were on the land, and he, grew crops and so on, and he'd. I organised things like fencing, that sort of thing that needed doing. I organised it. I had to provide the labour for that. So there were certain things I still had to look after, and I also, although I didn't officially undertake, I did used to keep an eye on particularly the sheep, and if anything was wrong, get someone to come, and very it wasn't difficult really. The garden was my main project, and still at that time the local newsletter, because the internet, the word programs and that were developing very fast then, and I got interested in the making up of a newsletter, getting the stuff in, making it up, seeing to the illustrations, getting it printed.
Was it called the Torridge or something?
It's called the Little Echo.
Oh, the Liverpool Echo, yeah. And that was the little, it was, I remember it being yellow pages.
Yes.
And it was the little
Little
newsletter for Little Torrington.
Taddyport and Little Torrington, because they are the same parish. Okay. And I gave it up after a while, after 11 years.
But you were the editor? Is that
right?
right?
Yes, that's right, yeah. And then until about 6 weeks ago, other people did it. And then, sorry, I got that a bit wrong. It closed down. The present editor kind of closed down at the first lockdown. Mm. And so, we couldn't do it then because it couldn't be distributed and so on. And about 6 weeks ago, a gentleman who I sort of vaguely knew knocked on my door and said he was interested in starting it up again. Yeah. So now we just had our first issue. So that's... I began it in 1987, something like that.
It was your initiative?
Yeah.
You started it?
Yeah. I didn't realise that. With a couple of friends. Okay. And so now it's, still going.
Did you write something for this issue?
I didn't know. No, I didn't, because it was just going to be a sort of trial issue, just a few pages, really just to announce that it was opening up again, and he'd got together the original distribution team and that sort of thing. Just more of an information issue, just to see how it went. And I saw him the other day, and he seemed to think that he'd be able to carry it on. But it's a one-man band at the moment. He's doing all the printing and everything himself, and he's elderly, so I don't know. But anyway, it'd be quite nice if he carries on. Yes, so that was life after Grandpa, really.
Okay. So it feels like, relatively sort of smooth continuation, really, of...
Well, yes, it was.
A bit more gardening, a bit sort of... The neighbours were a bit more polite.
Not so much the neighbours as the people that you don't really know terribly well, but you come across because they do things for you, or some do up at the village or something like that. My neighbours then were, as they are now, Michael Watkins, Graham Crocker, and the Homer people live at Homer Farm. It was those three that I saw most of all.
And you said at the start, so when Grandpa passed away, you decided, you sort of committed to yourself to sort of stay for 5 years?
Yes, see how I got on.
Which would take us up to, 2007?
Yeah.
And then what sort of...
Well, then I just sort of carried on, no particular definite decision. Yeah. I just went on until 2019.
Yeah.
Okay. I suppose about 2018, I was beginning to think, I really don't want this anymore. There's always decisions, whatever you're doing, aren't there?
You were digging ditches out, even.
Well, yes, yes. That was a thing. You had to keep your ditches clear. Being down in the valley and making arrangements if a tree fell in the river on your bank and all that sort of thing. That sort of daily decision making about your property, isn't it?
But at the age of 90, you were still digging ditches.
Well, yes, I know.
It's quite rare.
Yes.
And you were saying, so what age did Auntie Elaine pass away then? Because that was it 2009. Is that right? So a couple of years after your kind of 5-year milestone.
Yes.
She was older than you?
Yes.
Yes. Okay.
Yeah.
By how many years?
How many years? About 2.5, I think.
2.5.
Yes.
Okay. Something like that. Okay. So Auntie Elaine died at 83, 2009.
Yes.
Was that? I mean, how was that? Was that because she's your only sister, right?
No, I had Auntie Bud.
Well, your only surviving sister at that point. Sorry.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes,
that was the last. Yes. You were sort of kind of the last sibling.
I was the last. I did feel that quite a lot, actually. That there's no one left really that I can talk about our childhood to, and that sort of thing. I mean, the nearest acquaintance that I had that I could was Auntie Barbara, really, a friend who we grew up. She lived in the same road. We grew up together. We kept up until she died. So we could remember, both of us could remember our childhood. We spent a lot of time together.
Paul Hodgson,
Paul Hodgson, who's coming next Tuesday.
But is he? Oh, I can meet him.
Would you like to meet him?
Yeah, I would love to meet him.
Well, I was going to ask you. I didn't know really whether you would want to sort of.
Why would you know? Of course, I'm interested. But he did you know him? Did you grow up with his family?
No, because they lived over at Woodford Green in Essex, and
This is your cousin, isn't it?
yes, my first cousin, who now lives in Taunton. Yeah. And he's coming over on Tuesday with his daughter Claire, who's a teacher, and she's very easy. They're coming to lunch, so yeah. So
Bring pasties.
there's him, and I had Fever on the other side of the family, Fever cousins, and one of those is left. There were three of those, 2 boys and a girl, and we did see a lot of each other. They lived in the next door row but one, so we saw a lot of each other. There's just it was Roy and John, and it's Diana. Diana is still alive and lives in Putney.
Okay.
And I meant to see her when I came up to the christening, but it didn't work out.
Were you quite close with Auntie Elaine? I mean, obviously Auntie Elaine moved down to Devon after you.
Yes, she moved down after. We found the cottage, your cottage, for her.
Yeah, we'll come on to that. We'll come on to Highcleave.
Yes, that's right. I looked in the local newspaper. She said both of us have always wanted to come and live down here.
Okay.
And she asked if I would keep an eye out once she decided to move. And so I looked in the Saturday paper and saw this and thought, that looks nice. And we went straight down. I was up in the town when I looked at it. And I was with Father, and we drove straight down to Wedgerford, and the lady of the house was gardening out in the front there. And she took me around, and I got in touch with Auntie and said, come down straight away.
Wow.
Yeah.
So yeah, would you say you were quite close with Auntie Elaine for that? When it was just post, Grandpa passed away at this point. You had Auntie Elaine.
Yes.
She was living 15 minutes, 20 minutes from.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, that's right.
You don't know. Would you see her often, or she come to you? You would go there.
Not on a regular basis, but we did see each other quite often. Or perhaps we'd meet up in Torrington or something,
Yeah.
But we weren't on the phone every day or anything like that. Sometimes go quite a little while. She soon picked up things to do down here. She joined, music societies and made lots of friends through music and so on. So she very soon built up a life of her own down here.
Yeah,
which was good.
But you were sort of around if she ever needed you, and vice versa.
Yes, yeah, that's right. All family dues,
I certainly remember whenever we would come down and she was still alive.
Yes,
I have memories, especially getting towards the end of her life when she was still driving, and she would sort of. I remember one time she definitely went for a red light with me and Claire in the back of the car, and I was like, "Oh, Auntie Elaine, wasn't that red?" And she's like, "I don't think so." It would take us to maybe a bit of food.
Very easy to lose your concentration as you get older. It's very distressing. But,
there was less traffic down, 20 years ago. Yeah,
exactly.
It was a bit safe.
Yes,
still, it was a bit hairy. So.
Yeah, well, yes, and I only now drive into Torrington. Really, if it was an emergency, I would drive into Bideford, but I don't unless I have to, because you don't know yourself. I think I can see all right, probably, and I only had my eyes tested the other day, and she said I'm all right, getting near the borderline, but I'm safe.
Yeah,
so
it's for driving.
Yeah,
yeah.
Yes, but your concentration goes. And I have to be very careful. I can't talk to anybody if I have someone in the car with me. I don't talk at all. Yeah. And your concentration's going because something is happening in front of your car and you haven't particularly taken it in. So you've got to keep totally focused. And it's something that creeps up and takes you by surprise. I didn't see that. So my driving now, the last 2 years, I think, since yeah, it's gradually deteriorating, and I will have to, I'm sure, give it up eventually. But never mind, see, I've got my son who's come to live near me, and he'll drive me anyway.
I'm going to
Except
take
that
it
he
out.
hasn't got a car, so what you think that? Yeah.
So just
yes.
going back to Auntie Elaine.
Yes, bring us back. Yeah.
So we talked about how Grandpa's death wasn't a surprise because he sort of slowly deteriorated over a number of years.
That's right.
Was that the same for Auntie Elaine? Was it more of a surprise?
Well, Auntie Elaine, 20 years or so before she died, had cancer of the breast.
Okay.
And on both sides, one after the other. She got over one, and then she had the other one. She was very, very good about it. There was no sort of moaning and groaning or upset or anything. She was very good. And father was still working then. He and his friend looked after her and made sure that she was all right, and got the surgeon that they most trusted to look after her. So she had the best, and she was able to come into North Downs Clinic, which we ran at the time, and had it done, and both operations done. And the last one that she had was pretty soon after we moved into Undercleave, as far as time is concerned. Then she had no more trouble until it reappeared again. Probably, I'm not sure about this, but it would certainly have been 6 months, perhaps a year, where it reared its ugly head again, and eventually that was quite a slow process. And then, you didn't go so long after that one.
Where did she have the third cancer?
Well, I don't know that it was a cancer. I don't particularly the third time, but it might. I don't know. It might just have been that it had spread to organs over the years very, very slowly. I don't know.
Was she in pain?
It wasn't evident, but then I wasn't living with her. So I don't know. But the fact that she had so many interests and so many friends, that she kept going. Whatever she was feeling like, she kept going until, I don't know, 2 months maybe before the end. Something like that. Yeah.
Before she passed away in those kind of latter 2 months, then were you there a bit more often supporting her?
Yes. And she had her friend Doris living with her, and she looked after her, I think, quite well.
Yeah. And then were you there when she passed away, or were family there?
Yes. I was there. Who else was there? Somebody.
Maybe David?
Well, it would be David. Yes, it would be David. That's right. We were there, yes.
Had trouble getting her down the staircase.
Well, you see, the staircase is so narrow there, and it goes around a corner at the end.
Did she have an electric?
She had a, yeah, she did.
Using that, actually.
Yeah, they're quite fun.
Yeah. Great fun.
Yes. David has that now for Ruth. He's finding it enormous. Yes, she did, but I don't know what they did about that, because I don't think they could get the coffin down it. They did have a struggle getting the coffin down there. And
okay.
Doris was obviously
carry it down and then put it in your coffin, but
no, I didn't.
That feels quite a challenge to take.
Quite a challenge. And the undertaker himself was rather elderly and quite stout. and we were sort of, we weren't actually laughing, one couldn't, but we could see the situation and appreciate it. And Doris, who obviously was very stressed, she'd been looking after Elaine night and day. She blurted out, "The man's incompetent."
It's quite funny.
But yeah. So she was buried in Rediford churchyard. Well, she wasn't buried; she was cremated. But she has her stone near the door of Rediford churchyard.
I remember coming to see her and knowing I was living in America, I think.
Yes, you were. That's right.
Just at the tail end of my time in America.
Yes.
And I came to see her, and I knew it would be the last time I would come to see her, because she was obviously dying. And her main concern was that I should weed the steps in the garden.
Yes.
Sounds about right.
Yes.
as a kid, her garden was just a sort of an amazing labyrinth.
Yeah.
It felt vast. The different levels.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's right.
Lots of
A
places
bit of
to hide. For me, lots of like places with locks and keys, and different
yes.
greenhouses. Yeah.
and the woods.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yes, it was a marvellous garden for children. Yes, I've got a very nice photo of Elaine and me and Deirdre's small kids on the riverbank having a picnic. Not actually opposite your cottage, because there's nowhere you could do that there, but where there's some nice grass.
It made it into private parking.
Yeah, I know. And it wasn't then, and that was where we had our picnic. It was nice.
And then, Keith, how did you come to own Weir Gifford then? Did you purchase it in 2009, 2010?
After Doris died, it was a year after Aunt Elaine died.
Okay, yeah.
And then it, of course, because she was allowed to live there till she died.
Yeah.
And then she went into her home.
Yeah.
And when she died, it came up for sale. But I never forget, I was in an apartment, rather nice apartment in Kabul, in an old Afghan house. And it was quite a damp apartment, but it was really mud building with a mud roof, which they would replaster every year, but designed beautifully by the rather eccentric owner. And I remember, without thinking, all right, okay, I haven't got a house, I need to buy a house. I like Aunt Elaine's house, as far as I remembered. I haven't been there for a while.
Yeah.
Probably 2 years, but I didn't really know where it was. I didn't know that it was close to the sea. I knew it was close to Bideford, but I didn't really have any conception of where it was. So I just bought it.
Okay, why not? Without going around it again.
Well, Moth said to me, it'll be very expensive, and she was right.
Yeah.
To repair, because it's a listed building, so very expensive. But no, I'm glad I bought it.
Yes.
Very happy.
Yes, definitely. Yes. It's a lovely cottage, and it's worth spending the money on if you have it.
Yes, but it is beautiful. Every morning I wake up, I'm in Aunt Elaine's bedroom, actually. It doesn't feel anything weird about that. I actually got a new bed. I threw her bed away. I didn't like that.
Yeah.
But, yes.
Yeah.
I did have one visitor once, and I put them in that bed without telling them.
Someone side in the bed.
Oh dear.
Yeah.
But there were a lot of pictures in the house. I remember paintings on the walls, and lots of things had gone, of course, in various people clearing out, which is a shame because it was the character of the house. But otherwise, I moved in, and the furniture was exactly the same. All the crockery were there, knives and forks. I didn't have to buy a thing.
Yeah.
It's sort of weird, really, because it's not my style necessarily, all the stuff, but it was a great help because I didn't have the money to buy new things. And every day I sit in the sofa that was your parents' sofa.
That's right.
Bought for their wedding in 1920.
It's 1925.
1925.
Right.
It's almost 100 years old, that sofa.
Yes, yeah.
Wow.
And still going, whether you like it or not.
Actually, I'm going to like it again. I went off it for a bit because it's so uncomfortable on the neck when you're sitting in it.
Yes.
But I think I could do something about that. But yes, it's this strange mix of family history and new stuff, which I've done. Yeah. Continuation.
And the piano, so she, obviously, Auntie Elaine was very into music, wasn't she? That was, one of her sort of real passions. She had a piano. Was that, am I right? Is this right? That piano was donated to the sort of Weir Gifford Music Society, and then your piano from Undercleave, the grand piano, went into...
It was the Bideford Music Society.
It was a Steinway piano. It was
a Steinway.
I've never heard such a beautiful sound.
My mother's father gave the Steinway to my mother. I think it was for her 21st birthday, but I'm not sure about that.
Wow.
It then went to Elaine when my mother died. Elaine brought it down here and had it in the cottage. And when she died, it went to the Bideford Music Club. And it's had a few homes. I think they still own it, but it's had a few homes since then. But they do see that it's taken care of because the Steinway piano is good.
Yeah, that was sort of very most famous sort of piano brand, isn't it?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. So, but I haven't seen it myself. I haven't been to one of their concerts for a while now, so I haven't seen it myself. But then after that, when it had gone, we had a small grand, and for some reason or other, which I don't really know, I decided I didn't want to. So I never found time to play it, and it was taking up quite a lot of room.
Yeah.
So it went to where it differed.
I got a message when I was away in Afghanistan or something. Would you mind if we store the piano in your house? I thought, no, I'd love to have it there. It's a beautiful thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not a top-notch make, but it's a very nice piano, isn't it?
Yes, and
it is.
Who turned up to move it? The old Undertaker guy again.
I remember who moved us. You have to get piano specialists to move piano.
they get it in the cottage. Maybe they came through the kitchen door, the double doors. I have no idea.
Yeah, I can't remember either. Yes.
It's impressive.
I was telling Philip that when I have the new floor put into the living room,
Yes.
I'll have to send the piano away to be restored because it can't be there
No.
doing the floor.
No.
I'll have to
Right.
get the timing right.
Right.
On sort of moving houses then. So we're obviously recording this at Highcleave, which is up in Little Torrington. Undercleave is down in the valley.
Yes.
Maybe just explain a little bit, how did you come to that decision finally to, that's a big decision, isn't it? To move off the farm, to come up here.
It wasn't difficult.
Okay.
I can't tell you why. I'd had enough.
Okay.
And I wanted it to be in younger hands. I was getting too old to take care of it as I wanted to see it. I didn't like to see it being neglected or weedy or something. And it wasn't a problem making a decision. It was almost a foregone conclusion. No, I didn't sit down like I did after David died and say, well, I'll give myself ideas or anything like that. It was just a question of starting to look. I looked for a little while, and it was a very strange thing that whereas in Little Torrington property hardly ever changed hands, suddenly, I couldn't believe it, there were, I think it was 9 on the market.
Property boom.
I looked at them all, and they weren't quite what I wanted, and as I didn't actually have to move, I took the risk of not buying any. But the bungalow at Highcleave, or it was called then Tall Trees.
Which was what Aunt Elaine's house in Kenley was.
No, she was. I was Treetops, and she was Tall Trees in Kenley.
Yeah. Okay.
Yes.
This was Treetops.
This was Treetops. Sorry, I didn't like that name, but anyway, that's another thing. I'd always quite liked the look of not necessarily the bungalow, but the garden as you drive by. It was sort of quite nice. It was a nice position. I liked the idea of being next door to the graveyard and the little car park that belongs to the cottage next door, because I had no actual touching neighbours.
Yeah.
And it came up on the market about 3 years before I bought it. And something happened. I think the mother went to live with them and then got demented, and various family things happened. They took it off the market. And I didn't think anything more about it. And then I can't remember how I heard it was on the market again. Might have had a sign up, I can't remember a moment. Anyway, I went along to see it, and that was it. I didn't have to think about it. That was fine. The position suited me. At that stage, there was still quite a few people in the village that I'd known for years.
Yeah. Did you see it on your own, or did you go around with one of your children?
Yes, David came round with me, or Deirdre came round with me, and I think Lon came round with me much.
Oh, you went around several times? Is that right?
Yeah, about 3 times, I think. Yes, it just suits me down to the ground. And they were quite good, or they were very good, really. They were moving to something very much smaller. And they did sell some of their stuff, but quite a bit of stuff they left for me. The only thing they charged me for was the office chair.
It's worth a lot of money.
Yeah, well, that's what she said. Which they are actually. They're quite expensive. And then the move was held up because her mother died, and so they had to arrange all that. But I wasn't in a hurry. So I was able to say to them, just when you're ready. And it gave me time to think just what I had to take with me, sort out what was going to happen to it and to the farm and so on.
When was this actually?
In
2 years.
Yeah, yes, 2 years, November the 5th. I actually moved in, but I brought it in the July before that.
Okay, so this is 2019. This is just before the COVID global pandemic.
That's right.
This is well timed.
It was well timed. It was absolutely amazing. The only thing about that is that a lot of people I knew ever since we came here have died. We were all old. And a lot of new people have moved in. Yeah. And because of COVID, there's nothing social going on. So people don't know who they are. What old ones are left, don't know who lives in the village. And then the one person who actually always held the village together was Tony Butler. He did everything that no one else wanted to do. Did shopping for people, cutting the churchyard grass, all these things,
Yeah.
He died suddenly a year ago now.
But conveniently in the graveyard, wasn't it? Did he die in the graveyard?
He actually died on the so-called village green.
Oh, the village green.
Yeah.
Village green.
Well, he was trimming. He used to trim all the grass bits around the village.
He passed away while trimming.
Yeah.
Gosh.
Yeah.
And that sounds like a very apt death for him.
Absolutely.
Went to the pasture in the sky.
He was a marvellous man. He had a dreadful stammer.
Right.
But everybody who knew him, you just will wait until he gets it out. He didn't have any family. Once his parents had died, he had some cousins down on the south coast, where that was all. But so Tony went, and all the old people like me said, "Well, really, the heart's gone out of the village, but it'll come back, I'm sure." There's still a few of us left.
And if you drive through all these villages, we drove down, and it's unrecognisable.
Yes.
Lots of people with money have moved in.
Yeah.
And so there's been a big change in Little Torrington.
Well, that's right. Not so much in the building like we're Gifford, because they're building just every hole to spare down there, aren't they?
But also renovating old cottages much better.
That's right.
With Mercedes parked in the driveway.
That's right.
Yeah, we saw a Mercedes pickup today.
We saw it. It's good to have a pickup. It might as well be a Mercedes.
Well, that's absolutely doing properly.
I wanted to ask, we have talked about this before, Granny, but so the transition, you were living on a farm for a long, for 30 odd years, maybe something like this.
Yes, it was.
120 acres, all the stuff that comes with having a farm. And you're up here in a bungalow that, what is it, 4-bedroom maybe? It's quite big. It's quite a big
4-bedroom, 3-bathroom.
Yeah. And you've got a good sized garden, which still requires a lot of, looking after you and Rob. It's definitely a full-time job.
Yeah.
How, maybe it'd just be interesting to hear, how was that transition, and how long did it take you to feel, settled up?
It took, before I could call it home, it was about, probably about 15 months, something like that. Okay. So it might even have been 18 months. Relatively recently. But I settled in, no problem at all. Actually the settling in period, in the building, as it were, getting used to not being down in the valley. No problem at all, and I don't really want to go back to Undercleave. I have to go. The cats are still at Undercleave, and somebody has to go down, because Rob won't let the family neglect the cats. I think David and I would sort of think, well, they'll go off and find somewhere else, but he won't have that. So if David can't do it, he does it. Or I go down at the weekend sometimes. But I don't like it. You open the front door, and although it's very nicely kept up by children, it's empty. It's not alive, is it?
No, didn't like.
Yeah.
Does it feel quite a different world, even though you've only moved maybe a mile or two up the road? Do you feel like you're in a really different place? Or does it feel very familiar?
It's completely familiar, yes, because I did spend a reasonable amount of time up here for various reasons. So no, it all feels familiar. One of the things that really pleases me is, Mile Hill, that you come up to Little Torrington from the river, woods on either side and so on. It really pleases me that I still live in a place that I can go shopping and come back up that lovely hill.
Yeah.
It's stupid, isn't it? But I didn't want to move away from that. Really, I don't know why.
Yeah, well, it's worked out. I think it's worked out really.
Yeah. Very well. And being high up too, which is completely different. I find it much better. Yeah. You're not so closed in. I was very happy at Undercleave on my own, but there's no regrets at all.
But the word cleave means under the wood, doesn't it?
Yeah, I think so.
Undercleave means under the hanging sheep.
Yes,
with
yes.
the bells. So here I'm not sure about the name Highcleave because it didn't.
Well, I'm above the woods.
Uppercleave.
Yes, it could have been Uppercleave. I quite agree. I thought about that. I thought I had the actual nameplate done. I thought maybe that would have been better, but I had it. I had it done by then. It was quite a nice nameplate, so I left it.
So that was one change you made, the name of the property.
Yes.
You also changed quite a bit of the garden. Is that?
Yes, I had a pond put in.
Change.
And repaved all around the pond, and put quite a few new plants in the front there. There's still quite a bit of renovation to do around the drive area,
including your favourite rose, which was
Bonica
rose, which she bought me one for my birthday, which is very nice.
Okay,
but that's your favourite rose because it flowers for a long time. It smells nice.
It's very strong, hardy. You don't have to do much. You just prune it.
Bonica.
Probably prune it twice a year because it flowers so much. Has sort of easy prune, as it were, in the middle of the summer, and then another one about now.
Where's it from? Where's the?
I don't know.
An old rose, or
yes. Yes. I think it's quite an old rose. Yes.
I keep getting it confused with the song as bodega rose, and that means a small tobacco shop in America.
Okay.
Right.
But Bonica is easy.
Yes, I get it muddled up with Mike's boat, which is Bonita.
Bonita.
Yeah, that's true.
But your favourite flower, you told me, I think, was wild daffodils.
The little ones.
The little ones.
Yeah.
Wow.
They're beautiful.
And father's was snowdrops.
Yes. And I must plant some snowdrops on his
grave.
His grave, yeah.
That's a nice idea.
Yes, and then, no one has to keep putting things there.
And you can dance amongst the snowdrops late at night.
Precisely. That'd be a bit difficult. Yeah.
You've been listening to Project Posterity by Philip Crumpler, available at philipcrumpler.com.